Supper from Zion Law School. So let's pick it back up, y'all, where we left off. Last class, I got off track. Today I'm going to try not to do that. So we're going to continue with our course textbook, which is the Astrology of the Old Testament, or the Lost Word Regained. And I just want, this was published in 1892, and the author is Carl Anderson. And let me just say that this is not religion, okay? This is not religion. Within this, we are studying law, natural law, how the universe works, the celestial bodies, and the laws or principles that undergird them, okay? So those would be the Hermetic Laws. So anyone out there who's thinking that this is religion, no, it is not. It is not, okay? It is not religion. And I'm mentioning that because of some comments that I got. So for those of you who heard that, or those of you who said that, I want to make it clear to you, this is not religion, okay? This is not a Bible study, okay? All right, so we're going to pick it back up at chapter 12 on page 135, okay? Chapter 12, page 135. So, learning about nature is learning about yourself. Okay, man, know thyself. Moon man, know thyself. All right? So understand and know nature. Okay? All right. So let's begin. So by the way, I have my usual, my favorite. If I'm going to drink coffee, I prefer the coffee black. And or with honey, okay? So pure honey. So I have here black coffee with pure honey. So I'm using this only to stir it. Only to stir because it takes a minute for the honey to dissolve. It's very good. The honey knocks off the bitter aftertaste that some coffees have. And there's a coffee that I've only been able to get this coffee at one coffee shop. It has a chocolate taste. I don't know if it's a hybrid or indigenous coffee to Vietnam, or if it's a natural coffee, but it tastes like chocolate, the aftertaste. And it is absolutely delicious. But sometimes I put honey in it too because it really, really is good. All right, y'all. So, by the way, I'm at a place called King's Coffee. I guess I should mention them since I come here so much. So this is King's Coffee. This is a chain of coffee shops in Ho Chi Minh City. I don't know if it's all throughout Vietnam. But definitely in Ho Chi Minh City, King's Coffee. All right. So page 135. So here we go. Now, by the way, the class we did on chapter 12, the first class on chapter 12, I really enjoyed that class because there's so much information in that. So if y'all haven't watched it, it was the class before this one. I think this is class number 57. 56, I got sidetracked and I talked about chapter 2 of the Red Book. So 55, I think 55 is the class. So y'all go back and watch class 55, okay? We stopped at the first paragraph on page 135. So that's where we're going to pick up, page 135, fourth paragraph. And so let's make it do what it do. Now, in the island of Atlantis, there was a great and wonderful empire which had ruled over the whole island and several others. Now, this is an empire. An empire is composed of kingdoms. Okay? As well, so it had rule over other islands, as well as over parts of the continent. That would be the American continent, North, South, Central, America and the adjoining islands. So from Alaska all the way up in the north, all the way down into the south and the adjoining islands, okay? Atlantic Ocean, Atlantis, Atlantic Ocean, okay? This was a time when that was a river. And you know what I always remember, whenever I think about this, Horace Butler, maybe 5-7 years ago, he had a very, very popular book. I don't remember the name of it. Usually I remember the book title and not his name. Today I remember his name and not the book title. But Horace Butler. And in Horace Butler's book, it's about the Americas. In Horace Butler's book, he gives the etymology of the ancient Ibaryath word, or the biblical Hebrew word. And y'all know there's no such thing as biblical Hebrew. I hope everybody knows that by now. The ancient Ibaryath, or the Phoenician Canaanite, or the Canaanite Phoenician, whatever you want to call it, all the same. Some people will argue, well, Canaanite, Phoenician, or Phoenician, that only has to do with the script. Okay, well, I will argue differently. But I can accept it. All right. Why would you have a script without a language? So the script has, in order for it to be functional, it has to have grammar rules, right? But that's neither here or there. But he gives the etymology of the ancient Ibaryath word Jordan, in reference to the Jordan River. So if my memory serves me correctly, the Jordan River would actually be the Atlantic, what is now the Atlantic Ocean, before the great earthquake, okay, or the great flood. And its etymological meaning means stream, and some other things, okay? But anyway, that's worth going back and reading that, but I don't remember the page number right now at the moment. Okay, it goes in with this topic, Atlantis. Now, the island of Atlantis was a great and wonderful empire which had rule over the whole island and several others, as well as over parts of the continent. And besides these, it subjected the parts of Libya, within the columns of Hercules, as far as Egypt. And so now he's talking about not Africa, the Americas, Mexico. He's talking about Africa on the other side of Jordan, on the other side of the Atlantic. Okay? And of Europe, as far as Tyrrhena, which is Tuscany. The vast power thus gathered into one endeavor to subdue at one blow our country. Now remember who's talking. This is a high-level Kemetic priest speaking to Solon, a Greek philosopher who was the chief magistrate in Athens. So now he's saying that Atlantis had Egypt subjugated. In other words, a vassal, and slave relationship, debtor-creditor relationship. Also Athens. The vast power thus gathered into one endeavor to subdue at one blow our country and yours, and the whole of the land which was then within the strait, and then Solon, your country, that's Athens, shone forth in the excellence of her virtues. In the excellence of her virtues. And strength among all mankind. Now, isn't that interesting that he uses the word mankind? Now, when I see mankind, I think Genesis chapter 1, the hybrid, the Neanderthal. Okay, the Han Uman. But anyway, the Egyptians are autochthonous. They are Moors, sprung from the soil. The Athenians, the Greeks, they're hybrids. For she was the first in courage and military skill. In other words, the Greek, the hybrid men were first in courage, meaning that they were courageous enough to fight and defend their birthright. Whereas the Egyptians, the Hermetic people, were not. In other words, they were cowards. The autochthonous Moors were cowards, but the Greeks were courageous. Y'all have heard this story, these stereotypes before, right? This is nothing new. That's how you can also see the BS in it. You can see the finesse in this story. So the Kemetic people, the Moors, are boys who need to be led. All right? For Athens was the first in courage and military skill, and was the leader of all the Hellenes. And when the rest fell from her, so Atlantis defeated all the other nations, being compelled to stand alone. So now Athens has to take on the role of the superhero, out of necessity, right? The situation compelled Athens to stand up like men and fight. Whereas the autochthonous Moors, Kemetic people / Egyptians, even in that moment where they were compelled to fight, would not defend themselves. After having undergone the very extremity of danger, she, that is Athens, defeated and triumphed over the invaders. The invaders were the Atlanteans. And preserved from slavery and preserved from bondage those who were not yet subjugated, and freely liberated all the others who dwelt within the limits of Hercules. So remember the Herculean pillars? So the Greeks freed all of these people. So now the Greeks are the big international heroes. And since they freed you, you owed them something, right? You owed them your liberty, right? Y'all, this is the, in today's word, this would be considered what? the story of quote-unquote white supremacy and their divine right to rule, manifest destiny, right? But afterward, there occurred violent earthquakes and floods. So wait a minute. The Greeks defeated the Atlanteans, and then nature produces violent earthquakes and floods. And in a single day and night of rain, all your warlike men in a body sank into the earth. So nature destroyed the Athenian or the Greek armies. But listen, and the island of Atlantis in like manner disappeared. Atlantis sunk beneath the sea. So now Atlantis sunk, there's violent earthquakes, there's rain. For those of you who have not watched the video that I did, I keep saying this, I say it over and over. It's becoming mechanical. Watch the video that I did. It's called A Critical Analysis of Genesis chapter 1 and 2. Watch the video. A critical analysis of Genesis chapter 1 and 2. It's about 6.5 hours long. The first 2 hours, you can skip it if you like. But the first 2 hours, there are two Hebrew Israelites giving the garden variety doctrine on Genesis chapter 1, the first couple verses. But then after 2 hours and 4 minutes, if you don't want to hear that, fast forward to 2 hours and 4 minutes. Then that's when I come in and I start to show everything linguistically, what the meaning of Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2 are, using critical thinking skills and techniques, etymology, grammar, all of these kinds of tools and skills. But what you're going to find, I want to tell you, but if I tell you, most people won't go back and watch the video. And then in that case, I'd be doing you more harm than good. But y'all go back and watch that video. You'll come to, right now we're standing in front of the door, in front of the doorway of the Yacubian story. You know, Yacub with his 12 feminine genetic engineer / astrologer / scientist that he worked with. This is what we're dealing with right now. And you know what? If you Google search Han Uman in South America, or Monkey Man or something like that in South America, you're going to find that they have uncovered archaeological evidence of camps, of these Han Uman camps. Of course, they present them as gods. And rightly so, because they were gods. They were to be gods over everything, everything moving on the earth, including the autochthonous Moor. Y'all see it? So this is the issue of point of view, perspective. And then this is my opinion, the Yacubian conquest, Yacub's determination, his objective to conquer the Moors and rule the Moors through his Han Uman army. And we see that now, right? We see that they were successful. All right, so nature spoke up. and put out some earthquakes and floods. All right, now let's continue. The continuation of this, which is lengthy, is the substance as follows. So here's what happened after that. This war of the Atlanteans and the Mediterranean nations was 9,000 years before the interview between Solon and the priest. 9,000 years before Solon and the priest. And right now I'm thinking about why is it 9,000? Because y'all know that 3, 6, and 9, these are very prominent numbers. Very, very prominent numbers. Atlantis was then the greatest empire in the world. And colonies from it had peopled Spain. So people in Spain, now keep in mind there was no Spain. There was no Spain at this time. Had peopled Spain, France, Britain, and Ireland, Tuscany, and Etruria on the north side of the Mediterranean and on the south side of Libya and the entire coast. And, this is very interesting, though not peopling Egypt, had also colonized Egypt. So let me make sure I understand this correctly. The Atlanteans didn't people Egypt, but the Atlanteans people the European, modern European nations, Spain, France, Britain, Ireland, Tuscany, etc. Do you believe that? Do you believe it? If so, why? But the Atlanteans, if my memory serves me correctly, built pyramids, megalithic structures, and things of that sort, just like the Egyptians did. Right? Just like the Hermetic people did. But do we find evidence of that in Spain? There was no Spain. France, there was no France. Britain, there was no Britain. Ireland, there was none. 9,000 years. What does it say? 9,000 years before the interview between Solon and the priest. So you got to add that 9,000 years on. So let's go back to page 134. The reader is to remember all this was copied from the manuscript of Solon, word for word, as given by the Egyptian priest to Solon. And it says here, I'm looking for the year that this happened. So if you even just look at it from the date of Solon's birth, hold on, let me see. And also that in 594 BC, Solon was the chief magistrate of Athens. So let's just take it from 594 BC. So go from today all the way back to 594 BC, and then tack on another 9,000 years. There's no France. So here you can see that, well, let me not use, what I see is a fantasy. I see this author engaging in a fantasy. And he's trying to get you to buy it. All right? Trying to get you to buy it. Or to buy into this fantasy. So let's keep it moving, y'all. Let's keep it moving. By the way, so the Spanish, the French, the British, the Irish, etc., being the children of the Atlanteans, would then therefore be what, y'all? The superior bloodline. Also the superior intellect. Y'all see it? And then Egypt, the Kemetic people, having no blood relation to the Atlanteans. So now, it says also, the Atlanteans people, the north side of the Mediterranean. So in other words, the people who call themselves European and classify themselves as white today are the Atlanteans and are superior intellectually and genetically. This is what he's saying. And that came from the Kemetic priests. So that's where it gets credibility, so you need to give it full faith and credit. You need to buy it. And he continues with this fantasy. With this glorious fantasy. On the west, it being Atlantis, had intercourse with the islands and continent of America, and had largely molded there the American civilizations. He didn't say nations, he didn't say kingdoms, he didn't say empires. He said civilizations. Why? Why is he saying civilizations? Sorry, y'all. Because international law deals with nations and nationality. Birthrights pass through nations. And you have to have a nationality in order to have a birthright, not a civilization. See, civilizations, there's no birthright. So they are denationalizing everyone in the Americas. Why? For the purpose of birthright theft. In other words, land robbery. Land theft. All right? He continues. I'm going to go back and read this. On the west, Maghreb al-Aqsa, Atlantis had intercourse with the islands and continents of America, and largely molded their civilization. So therefore, by extension, you can reason that the French, Spanish, British, Irish, Tuscany, on the other side of the Mediterranean, all of these peoples, or in other words, those who classify themselves as white people today, are responsible for civilizing the Americas. Y'all see how they reversed it? They're claiming, the hybrid is claiming to have civilized the Moors. Right? Y'all see it? All right? preceding Columbus by upwards of 10,000 years. Does everyone see that? So these so-called Europeans who classify themselves as white are claiming to be Atlanteans and being the father of civilization in the Americas. Quote unquote, in this kingdom of Atlantis were vast numbers, immense power, and great wealth. From it went west and east to the ends of the world a right civilization and a conquering military power. But we learn from our elders, like Dr. Clark, and I'll never forget this, I don't know why. But Dr. Clark always made the point that Kemet never had a military. So, and I remember him saying this distinctly. He said that when Alexander, the so-called great, went into Kemet, went into Egypt, they didn't have a military. They didn't have a military. And all of the civilizing that they did all over the planet, I'm talking about the Hermetic people, they never did it by military force. They raised people up. They raised people up. Whereas the hybrid does what? Uses military force and economic power to bring people down and destroy people. Everything is done by fear, conquest. So now we're talking about polar opposites, right? We're talking about polar opposites. And think about this, y'all. I know y'all know my position about the Yaqub story. See, Yaqub could have developed, well, no, not could have, did develop a military fighting force. And eventually, we autochthonous Moors had to respond. Right? I mean, you can't bring a calculator to a gunfight or a knife fight, right? So in this kingdom of Atlantis were vast numbers, immense power, and great wealth. From it went west and east to the ends of the world, a right civilization and a conquering military power. So let's cut out the military power. That's BS. Think about the Moorish Empire. Think about the dominions of the Moorish Empire. It continues. By it, the lands were colonized. So now they're justifying colonialization. Right? The pyramids of Egypt and Central America and the temples of Peru and Egypt built. So now the author is saying that the Atlanteans built the pyramids all over the world. But isn't it interesting, y'all, that in this book, published in 1892, he says the pyramids in Egypt and Central America and the temples of Peru and Egypt were built. But most of our people didn't start finding out about the pyramids in the Americas until about, what, 15, 20 years ago? No, I think back into the late 70s. That's when Dr. Ivan Van Sertima came out with his book, They Came Before Columbus. Okay? So in the late 70s, or mid to late 70s, if I remember correctly, and in the, I think shortly after, a few years after that, another book came out called Before the Mayflower. And then in the 90s, this information about pyramids in the Americas was not widely known. In the 90s, there were some people who knew about it. Dr. Malachi York talked about it a lot. And I remember unfortunately, I have a cousin. What were they called? Nuwabians? I think he was a Nuwabian. But for some reason, y'all, I got this cousin who hates my guts from childhood. I have no idea why. It's he's also masculine, like me. Hates my guts. He knew about this information, and I used to ask him, like, why do you have this? Why do you have that? Really, symbology. He would never tell me. Would never tell me. Always not tried, but he always kept things secret. So I wound up being stuck in religion for decades. I think I saw him in the late 90s. And then after that, I didn't see the guy for I think until the mid 2000s. And he was talking about something else, and I attempted to join in the conversation. It had something to do with credit, cleaning up your credit or something like that. His attitude was still the same. After all of those years, he wouldn't talk, didn't want to tell me. But can you imagine the level of unhappiness or insecurity or even hatred? I don't know. That has to exist in someone's head. To hate someone over that many years for no reason. For no reason. But he would never tell me. So I was parked in religion for decades. He was the only person that I knew who knew about this type of information. When I was in college doing my undergraduate degree, I read books. In fact, I read that's where I was first introduced to Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. But other than that, I had not run into anybody who had that kind of information. So I was parked in religion for like 35 years, y'all. 35, 33 years. But yeah, that dude hates me. Actually, if he ever decided to have a conversation with me, I would welcome him. I would welcome the conversation. I don't know why the guy hates me. You know? I know what other people have told me about the situation and about his family, that type of attitude being characteristic of his family. But, I don't know, because I never dealt with him. But because he didn't, if he would have told me, I might have got out of religion faster. That's my point. That's my point. So y'all, share this kind of information with people. Don't hog it. Don't be cliquish with it. You know what I mean? Don't be cliquish with it. All right? Don't use it as personal power. Because it's our heritage. It's yours and mine. Okay? Anyway, let's continue. I lost my spot. Okay. So by Atlantis, those lands were colonized. The pyramids of Egypt and Central America and the temples of Peru and Egypt built. So the Atlanteans built all of the pyramids and the temples, the megalithic buildings. Ain't got nothing to do with you, Moors, according to this author. Also the tombs of Tuscany. The commerce of the world. The commerce of the world was under its control. Now y'all know who Atlantis is, right? It's us. The Atlanteans are us. We Moors. Now, if the reader has paid attention to his geography, let him look at the Atlas Mountains in Africa, Maz Atlan, Mini Titilan, and the numerous towns and villages in Mexico, beginning or ending in ATL. Now, that means we need to think about ATL, Atlanta, right? And the Moroccan Empire, northwest of Mexico. Or Atlan, A-T-L-A-N, the great Atlantic Ocean, rolling between the Atlantes, living along the north and west coast of Africa. Atlas, represented as holding the world on his shoulders. Okay, so y'all, when you go, so here's our equinautical line. At my elbow is the spring equinox, March 22nd. And then here is the fall or autumn equinox, September 22nd. As the sun is falling from the summer solstice. So from June, which is June 22nd. So from June 25th, the sun begins to fall. And then the sun crosses below the celestial equator, which is 0 degrees. On September 22nd, the sun crosses below. Christ is crucified, right? Whereas for the spring equinox, rising, and the crucified when the sun crosses below the celestial equator. And in the Christian iconography, you will see Mary standing at the foot of the cross. All right? And so just below that, when the sun crosses below the celestial equator, just below that, that's where you'll see Atlas standing there holding the globe or the world on his shoulders. Okay, so that's where you'll find that on the celestial map. All right, and then interestingly, also on September 29th, Michael the Archangel accompanies the Christ to the winter solstice, which is hell. Okay, which is hell. So y'all, let's continue. The Atlantes along the north and west coast of Africa, Atlas represented as holding the world on his shoulders, a map of the entire world called an atlas. Y'all see it? The Atlanteans builded the Sphinx and pyramids. At the time mentioned by the priest is without doubt. Again, at the time mentioned by this priest is without doubt. So he said that the date is firm. As little doubt as it is that as little doubt as there is that Atlantis existed and sank. So he says here that the Atlanteans builded the Sphinx and pyramids. So y'all, the Sphinx is a representation of the Zodiac. The head of the Sphinx is Virgo. So in other words, springtime began in Virgo. And the body of the Sphinx is a lion. So Leo would have been the last zodiac sign in the cycle. So remember, there in ancient times there were only 10 zodiac signs in the solar projection, or the solar zodiac, or the ecliptical zodiac. Okay, as opposed to the circumpolar zodiac projection. Okay, yo. So now let's get into this, because this is very, very interesting, useful stuff. Each item of the foregoing can be proved by sounding or depths of ocean between Cape Finisterre, in parentheses it has the end of the earth. So Cape Finisterre is supposed to be the end of the earth. And notice this, in Charleston, South Carolina. The Great Line of Earthquakes, the destruction of Lisbon, some few centuries ago, at which time 60,000 people were buried under the ocean in just a few seconds of time. So here we are dealing with 60,000. So what numbers did we see so far? We saw so here 60,000, we saw 9,000 and 10,000, right though? Just on page 136. So 9,000, 10,000, 60,000. Or 9, 10, and 60, or just 9, 1, and 6, and then we can work out the numerological meanings of those numbers. And I'm not going to do that right now. Y'all can do that on your own. I want to try to get through the end of this, or at least make some, at least get close to finishing the chapter. Okay, y'all. So now, I don't know why, I don't know what the reason is that he says that Cape Finisterre is the end of the earth in Charleston, South Carolina. I don't know if there's a mountainous range or some type of evidence in the land is the reason why he's mentioning maybe he's talking about mountain ranges. I don't know. But let's continue. And see, this is something that needs to be known, because listen, he says each item of the foregoing can be proved by the soundings or depths of ocean. Can be proved by the depths of ocean between Cape Finisterre, the end of the earth, in Charleston, South Carolina. How does the depth of the ocean between Cape Fear and Charleston, South Carolina prove each of the items? I don't know. But he does say, remember, that there was a great earthquake that sunk Atlantis. But let's continue. The great line of earthquakes, the destruction of Lisbon some few centuries ago, at which time 60,000 people were buried under the ocean in a few seconds of time. The numerous shocks of earthquakes in that line since, okay, so it's a line of earthquakes, so maybe there's, maybe mountain ranges were produced, or hills, or some indication, okay, having to do with the fault lines. And the various earthquakes in the Mediterranean all go to prove the probability and accuracy of Solon's narrative. But I would disagree because that information, if it exists, well, let's say it exists. That information could have existed before Solon. There could be other sources of that information, or you can just look and tell. That doesn't add to the credibility of Solon's narrative at all to me, any more than if Solon would have said he saw the Mount Everest. That doesn't add any credibility to anything he said, because a billion other people have seen Mount Everest, and you can go see it there now, right? Or the Grand Canyon, etc. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. All right, so let's continue on page 137. Now, we must diverge a little and come back to the Escheat and Sons movement. No maritime nation could navigate by chance. Absolutely. Let me say it again. No maritime nation, which would be the Moroccan Empire. No maritime nation could navigate by chance. And that the Atlanteans were well versed in the mysteries of trigonometry and of solar, that's the sun, stellar, and lunar observations, it is preposterous to deny. Now y'all know that we Moors are known for navigating in astrology, right? Everybody knows that. That the Phoenicians, who are Moors, who were colonists of the Atlanteans and who circumvented Africa, oh, that's very interesting. He says the Phoenicians who were colonists of the Atlanteans. So now they're saying that the Phoenicians colonized Atlantis? That the Moors colonized Atlantis and who circumnavigated Africa were also well informed in these particulars is evident. And this is easily proved inasmuch as the Great Pyramid is situated exactly on the ecliptic and precisely covers by its angles the north, south, east, and west points, and the Escheat sun is exactly over it on the longest day of the year, that is June 22nd, which is the summer solstice. Now y'all, let's put two and two together. We have the circumpolar zodiac projection, which is with its 7 stations. And then there's the ecliptic the ecliptical or solar zodiac projection with its 10 constellations or zodiac signs in a circle, right? So if y'all can imagine, let's say this is let's say this is space, this circle, okay? So here you have June 22nd, December 22nd, the summer solstice, and then March 22nd, September 22nd, okay? So y'all see it? The equinoctial points. And then a circle around here, let's say that's space. So in the north, there's the North Star or Polaris, okay? And this rotates. So in the northern hemisphere, everyone in the northern hemisphere would be able to see the constellations circling around the northern pole, hence circumpolar, circling around, or the circumference, circling around the North Pole, circling around Polaris, see? And that circle is actually said to be feminine, or feminine energy. I got this from someone named Michael Tarson. Yeah, Michael Tarson. Y'all can Google search him, or not Google, Google search him, but also, because he's written a lot of books, and then you can search him on YouTube. That is the oldest zodiac projection. So when we're supposed to, hold on y'all, let me check the comments. So we're supposed to return to the heritage that would include the sciences, the ways of our ancient foremothers and forefathers. So most anciently, that would be the circumpolar zodiac projection. All right? The 7 stations of the sun. Okay? But then there's the other projection, as I just said, which is the ecliptical projection. That's 23.5 degrees. So here's the celestial equator. And then here, this is the ecliptic. So y'all see the angle here? The angle is supposed to be 23.5 degrees. And that's the apparent path of the sun from somebody who's on Earth looking at it. All right? That's the ecliptic, or what? The snake. Or one of the snakes. So there are 2 projections. Is this to say that our ancestors were not aware of the ecliptical projection? Absolutely not. They were aware of it. But the focus was on the circumpolar projection. And then in later times, or in my mind, when I'm working with, when Yaqub began his quest to conquer, they shifted the focus from the circumpolar projection of the zodiac to the ecliptic projection, or the solar zodiac. Okay, y'all, this is what I'm thinking. Let me check the comments. I think I saw a comment. Hold on, let me see. One moment, y'all. So when we deal with the Great Pyramid, so when we're dealing with the Great Pyramid, and we realize that it is on the ecliptic, so now, I'm not able to open it up. It's not opening up on my device. What's up? Well, y'all, I can't open it. Why won't it open? Let me close it out and try again. Hold on, y'all. Oh, boy, oh, boy. Huh. It's not even showing that I'm live. What the heck? All right. One second, y'all. It's not even showing my live status. Let's see. All right, I got it. Okay, so let me take a look at these comments. Okay, hold on. Okay, so this is trolls. So the trolls are back. All right, y'all. Excuse me. So let's pick it back up. So the Great Pyramid is situated exactly on the ecliptic and precisely covers by its angles the north, south, east, and west points, and the SUN sun is exactly over it on the longest day of the year, which is June 22nd, which is the summer solstice, y'all. So, if this is, take a look at this, y'all. Imagine this is the pyramid, the Great Pyramid. So, the sun would be directly over it at a 90-degree angle on June 22nd, okay? Now let's keep it moving. This then was a prime meridian or true right ascension. That's R.A.M. Right ascension meridian, RAM. Okay? This then was a prime meridian or true right ascension every day at noon, at 12 o'clock, by the angle, by the angel, by the messenger, by the angle of the SUN sun of the given day, or 90 degrees high. On an equally divided day of 12 hours, 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of night. On an equally divided day of 12 hours, or equal to movement of the sun 15 degrees per hour into 90 is 6 hours. Listen, y'all, is 6 hours from noon, and consequently 6 hours from sunset. See where this is going? Y'all see where this is going? 6, 6. 6, 6. Remember we talked about the male sexual organ, the penis, is a 6. So the penis and the testicles, right? Let me do it this way. Can y'all see that? The erect penis and the testicles. This is the 6. This is the sun, right? The number 6. Inverted, this is a number 9. This is the vagina, the cervix, and then the uterus. Okay, so we put the 6 and the 9 together. What does this look like, y'all? Let me see. Well, let me try to do it like this. It feels weird. Well, anyway, y'all get the point. That's Cancer. That's the zodiac sign Cancer. Right? The zodiac sign Cancer. So the 6 is the sun, masculine energy, and then the 9, the inverted 6 is a 9, which is the moon, feminine energy. All right, y'all? This then was a prime meridian or true right ascension every day at noon, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, by the angle of the estuary sun on the given day or 90 degrees high. On an equally divided day of 12 hours, so 24 hours in a day, divided in half, you get 12 hours, or equal movements of the sun, okay, 15 degrees per hour, and to 90 is 6 hours from noon, 6 hours from noon, so 12 plus 6, and consequently 6 hours from sunset, so 12 minus 6. So what does that give you? 6 o'clock in the morning, sunrise, plus 6, 12 o'clock noon, plus 6 more, 6 o'clock in the evening, 6, 6, 6. And we were taught that that's an evil number. Come on. We were taught that's an evil number. That's, what is this, y'all? Sunrise is Horus. That's the Passover. Sunrise is Horus. The Passover, right? The sun ascending northward, passing over the celestial equator. That's the baby Jesus. 12 o'clock. The sun takes the title of the Christ. So now we have the baby, we have the Christ, which is the full-grown man. The Christ, higher self. Right? Tried and proven. Undergone all types of trials. All the trials that any man could ever go through. This figure went through. The JC the Christ figure went through. Right? All the storms, pains and pressures, put downs, being made mockery of, humiliated, all of the doubts, the lower self-doubts that you experience when you're in a jam, when you're going through a storm. He overcame all of that. And now this to take on the title of Christ. All right? And then, of course, his decline, where he's eventually exterminated. Right? So the birth of the Christ, the mature Christ, or the birth of Jesus, Horus. The sun takes a Horus at sunrise. Let me do this over. The sun passes over the celestial equator, March 22nd. Okay? So now we have, actually let me do that again. What's the best way to do this? Let's take it to December 25th. I think that's better. Take it to December 25th. On December 22nd, the sun dies. There's no movement on the sundial for 3 days. on December 25th at exactly 12 midnight, the end of December 24th, the very beginning of December 25th, a new sun is born. A new son is born. Okay, Jesus is born. In the iconography, if I remember correctly, you'll see four animals. You see four animals. These four animals are what? This is the Ta. In the ancient Ibaryath, we call this the Ta. This is the last pictograph, the last hieroglyph, the last pictograph in the ancient Ibaryath, ancient Phoenician, Canaanite Phoenician script, Ta. And then the cherubim. Now y'all, this all has to do with this topic. And then the cherubim. So over here we have the head of a bull, Taurus. Over here we have the head of a lion, which is Leo. Over here we have the eagle, the head of an eagle, which is Scorpio. And then over here we have the head of a man, which is Aquarius. And this is the Ta cross. And these are the cherubim. Right? And then the great central fire that's unchangeable, that never moves, is in the midst of the cherubim. Okay, you get this in Ezekiel chapter 1, and then also, I think it's Revelation chapter 4. Okay, y'all? So here's that cross. Here's that cross. All right? These 4 points. Okay? Now let's continue. Well, the author is going into it right now. Oh, I remember the point. Oh, so baby Jesus, born on December 25th, right? Born on December 25th. On June 22nd, baby Jesus takes, or the son, the Escheat son, takes on the title of Christ. All right? And then the mature, let's say, Jesus in his ministry, he begins to what? Approach the end of his days, approach the end of his life where he will be exterminated. Or the man reaches maturity, and then after maturity, there's what? There's the physical and or psychological decline, and eventually demise or expiration of the physical body. So now you have the baby, the full-grown man, and the elderly man, the father. The elderly man is the father. There's your Trinity. There's another Trinity. There's another Trinity. Y'all see it? Now, let's take it through. Now, that's the original Trinity. Now, let's take it through. So we covered 6 in the morning, approximately the sun rising. At this time, 12 o'clock noon. There's your other 6. So 6 plus 6 plus 6. And we're taught that that's evil. 6 plus 6 plus 6, that's 6, 12, 18. All right? Now, let's keep it going. So that the S-U-N son, whose throne is strong. Let me repeat that. So that the S-U-N son, whose throne or strong house or strength is in the sign Leo. See, doesn't JC take on the Christ, take on the title, the Lion of the tribe of Judah? So that the S-U-N son, whose throne or strong house or strength is in the sign Leo, is the beast alluded to in the Apocalypse or Revelation of St. John, specifically, let me see if I can do this, specifically Cancer, in whose house the Virgin Mer-I, it's interesting that he wrote it that way, Mer-I, M-E-R-I, or Mary, or Mir, or mother of the cross. So y'all see the cross, the equinoctial line, the solstitial line, right? And you can imagine that inside of a circle. Now take a look at this again. Imagine that circle around there. And each of these points would be a gate. Okay, y'all? So North Gate, South Gate, East Gate, West Gate, news. Okay, so Mary, mother of the cross. Mary, mother of Jesus, right? Who was crucified. Okay? Or Mary, mother of the cross, had her home as before related. So now, y'all, when we talk about water, again, water can be the water in the ocean, but it can also be the water or the waters of space. The waters of space, okay, y'all? The number of the beast is 600, 66. The number of the beast is 600, 66, and alludes to the SUN sun rising at 6 a.m. 6 hours after it is mid-noon. So 6 a.m., time is going forward. 6 hours from 6 a.m. is 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And 6 p.m., which is 12 hours after 12 noon, and 6 p.m., the SUN sun sets. 3 sixes, or 666. Y'all pause the video and watch that on the replay. This is page 137. So the question now becomes, why did they scandalize the number 666? They teach us from birth that 666 is evil. See, what's the motive? What's the motive of that? Was to detach you from nature. And to detach you from nature is to detach you from yourself. Okay? Remember, man, know thyself. Okay? So at the subconscious level, they've convinced you that you're evil. That you're evil. All right? And they've also convinced you that you're dealing with gods, devils, and demons, when it has absolutely nothing to do with that at all. It just has to do with your ability to orient yourself in time and space. To orient yourself mentally in time and space. All right? Now remember, y'all, this at one time was common knowledge. This at one time was common knowledge. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew this information. Everybody knew it. Hold on, y'all. I got another cup of coffee. I gotta put my honey in it. It takes a while for the honey to dissolve. Give me 1 second, y'all. So I hope y'all are learning and finding this interesting. But not just interesting, but I hope it's helping you to break free from the curse that our people are under, and that you're most likely under, right? That historical JC curse, where he cursed, you have eyes to see, but you cannot perceive. ears to hear, but you cannot hear. So if I can participate in your process of saving yourself, that's satisfaction enough for me. All right, yo. Now let's keep it going. The number of the beast, this is the beast in Revelation, is 600, 6, and alludes to the sun, sun, rising, sunrise, the birth of Christ. Baby horse is born, right? The sun rises above the horizon, the zone of Horus, or Horus's zone, 6 p.m., okay? So the sun rises at 6 a.m. Horus is born, baby Horus is born. So this is the zone of Horus. The sun rises to 6 p.m. This is where the sun, the sun takes on the title of Christ. This is the solstitial line. Y'all see it? And of course, the sun begins its ministry having to do with the harvest. Right? So in Leo, which is the raging lion, the intense heat of the sun, fecundates the land, makes the land extremely prolific and fertile. Right? And now, the plants, the fruit rather, on the plants begin to ripen. And you get your first harvest, the wheat and the barley in August, and then everything else comes, and of course, the grapes, the sweet grapes, in September. And the last day of that harvest, if I remember correctly, the grape harvest, I think, is September 29. Y'all check it. After that, you don't get sweet grape juice anymore, but you get vinegar. Okay, so the wine press, that was it Isaiah who spoke about the wine press and the great vengeance of God and all of this other stuff. That has nothing to do with anything that they talked about, that they taught you. That simply has to do with the winemaking process, the vintage process. That's all it has to do with. So now, we went through baby JC, the birth of the sun. We went through the sun when it takes on the title of the Christ. And then, of course, the sun as it goes through its decline. As JC, when you look at this in the New Testament, JC is in his ministry and he's being humiliated and he's about to be exterminated. In nature, we're looking at the harvest. All right? So there's your Trinity. In nature, Farmer's Almanac. Okay? But let's keep it going. Now, this pyramid, the Great Pyramid, was erected before Aries and Libra. Did y'all hear that? Before. Now, this pyramid, this Great Pyramid, was erected before Aries. Aries is what? The ram. Aries the ram, right? And Libra were instituted as signs of the Zodiac. Now, when I read this the first time, I was unaware of that. Aries, the ram. Wait a minute, y'all. Wait. Wait, so the Israelites, Abram, Aries, what is matter of fact? Abram, Abraham. So y'all go reference this on page 5 of this book. Page 5 of this book, okay? Be one moment. See, what I'm getting at is that the ancient Israelites, the father is Abraham, Abraham, Aries. But there was a time when there was no Aries in the zodiac sign. So what's going on here? Peoples? What's going on here? I'm going to start on page 4. And they then knew that as light was eternal and spiritual, and is of the Supreme Father, when the insulated medium called the body of man is worn out, yet shall live again. So this is, remember, the sun declining, and eventually the sun dies. The S-U-N sun dies, the S-O-N sun also dies, but is resurrected on December 25th. The insulated medium called the body of man is worn out, yet shall he live again, when in process of time the exact angle, this is getting at purgatory, right? The exact angle of the eternal Father shall appear. That's when he says the angle, he's talking about the angle with respect to the configuration of the heavenly bodies when you were born. When in the process of time the exact angle of the eternal Father shall appear, the same planets in configuration as at the departure. He shall then progress onward and onward forever. Next sentence. And the state between these lives, the state between these lives is what is now designated as purgatory. Y'all see that? They made a religious doctrine out of that. So don't let anybody ever come at you, accuse you of talking religion. When you talk about these things, right? This is nothing but science. This is astrology, natural law, natural phenomena. But in ancient times, was lying in the quote-unquote arms of Osiris. In the arms of Osiris. Y'all see sire and Osiris? Sire, father, sire. And then also Osiris. And then remove the O, you get Serapis. Osiris and Apis, the bull. Remember the head of a bull? Y'all remember that? The head of a bull? But anyway, let's continue. Quote unquote. Arms of Osiris and the quote unquote bosom of Abraham. All right, so in ancient times, it was not purgatory. You would be laying in the arms of Osiris or laying in the bosom of Abraham or the due east or original place of the birth of life. So y'all should be thinking what? Right? Ascension meridian. Springtime, the beginning of spring. Okay, so or original place of the birth of light, waiting for the dawn. And that part of heavens is the first degree of Aries. Aries the ram. And signifies the right ascension of meridian, the three initial letters making capital R, capital A, capital M, and then Ab, A-B. From father, or generator, or original. Father, generator, or original. It is, or Aries is, the due east, or gate of gold. Why? Well, because the sun is color gold. And the days are getting longer. So at the spring equinox, we have 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of night. So therefore, in the due east, at the first day of spring, or that gate, is called the gate of gold. Or, it says the gate of gold, or, so it's called the gate of gold, or, capital O-R, or, which appears to mean from the Orient. So O-R, capital O-R, looks like it's an abbreviation of Orient, okay, or East. Y'all got that? They classified the constellations and ascertained their true positions and found that all things from the beginning to the end of time were written in the heavens. All things from the beginning to the end of time were written in the heavens. Well, what does this mean? It means that you need to know, you need to become literate on how to read the heavens. The same way I'm reading what's on these pages. Right? The celestial bodies are for signs and seasons. And that our sun was the grand center of our system. So here's the grand center, right where these lands, right where the lines intersect, right here. Okay? So this is God between the cherubim. This is why you see the ancient Egyptians, they'll be standing like this, right? Have y'all ever seen this pose? That's what, this is an astrological pose. Okay? This is the great central sun, the sun is right here between the cherubim. Everybody see it? And these are the four gates. All right, y'all? But let's go back to page 137. Now, this pyramid was erected before Aries and Libra were instituted as signs of the zodiac. Now, I know that Libra was instituted as a sign of the zodiac because of the original fall of man. We covered that a few classes ago. So what's the reason for inserting Aries into the zodiac? And where did Aries come from? Where did Aries come from? Now, if I remember correctly, Virgo Scorpio was one constellation. And then at the original fall of man, they separated, and then Libra came in between them. Okay? And then Libra is a feminine sign. But I haven't seen where Aries comes from. So if someone knows where Aries comes from, y'all please share your information with me. Don't be stingy, like my cousin. Don't want to see me. Don't stand around hoping and wishing to see me suffer. Hoping something bad happened to me. All right, y'all. So if anybody knows, when was Aries inserted into the zodiac? And was it part of another constellation and it was separated out? Or was it a whole new constellation that was inserted in between? two constellations. So if anybody knows, please let me know. Where are we? Ah, okay. Now this pyramid was erected before Aries and Libra were instituted as signs of the zodiac. For the Escheat sun god Ra, remember y'all, Amen Ra, Amen and Ra, and people are still saying Amen, Amen, Amin, and the Hebrew Israelites, one particular organization still teaches that that's not the Egyptian deity. I remember I made a video on the tetragrammaton. See, tetra means four. Gram means letter. So the four letters. We think it's YHWH, right? Which is a moon deity. Feminine, in fact, if I remember correctly. Yeah, feminine is the moon. YHWH, four letters. Tetra, gram. But what comes after that? Aten. A-T-I-O-N, A-T-O-N, A-T-U-N. The Kemetic, the Egyptian deity. The four letters. Well, some Hebrew Israelites got mad at me about that video. But of course, these are solar deities, so they're all the same. They're all the Escheat sun. They're all the Escheat sun. And so the Ra are the rays of light that are encoded with energy and information. For the Escheat sun god, Ra, dwelt between the cherubim. Okay? The head of the bull, this is Taurus, zodiac sign Taurus. The head of a lion, Leo. The head of an eagle, Scorpio. And the head of a man, Aquarius. Okay? So the sun god Ra dwells between the cherubim here. The eternal fire. And was builded to commemorate some great matter. So the Great Pyramid was built to commemorate a great matter, which is certified by the Sphinx and also by Jove. The Sphinx, now y'all listen to this, okay? Listen to this. The Sphinx has the entire body of the lion, Leo the lion. Okay, so here we are, the head of a bull, the head of a lion. So the zodiac signs, these four zodiac signs are actually cherubim. The Sphinx has the entire body of the lion and the head of the Virgin Myrrh, I, the Virgin Mary, the Virgin Mir, or Mother of the Cross. All right? Virgo is the fifth sign. Virgo is the fifth zodiac sign. And the Escheat sun must then have been in Leo. So the sun must have been in Leo as its first point of right ascension. The sun must have been in Leo at its first point of right ascension. Now, we just read before on page 5. Was it page 5? Let's go back, y'all. I'm on page 5. It says here, but in the ancient times was lying in the arms of Osiris, and the quote-unquote arms of Osiris and the quote-unquote bosom of Abraham or the due east, or the original place of the birth of light. So now, at the time that the Sphinx was built, this place was not Aries, but it was Leo. The original place of the birth of light would have been Leo. Let me go back and read it. Virgo is the fifth sign, and the Escheat sun must have been in Leo as its first point of right ascension. Clear? But in ancient times was lying in the quote-unquote arms of Osiris and the quote-unquote bosom of Abraham, or the due east, or original place of the birth of light, waiting for the dawn. And that part of the heavens is the first degree of Aries. It's the first degree or first day of the month, the first degree of Aries the ram, and signifies the right ascension of meridian. The three initial letters making up R, A, M, and ram, from the father or generator or original. Let me show it. Y'all pause the video on the replay. Okay? By the way, it's here. I was reading where my finger is here. That's what I'm reading from. Okay, now let's go back. Page 138. Well, let me show page 138. Be consistent. So y'all see where I'm reading from? Page 138? Right over here. Pause the video. The link to this book, there's a free link. You can download it in the community tab. So just go to the community tab here, and you can scroll through it and find this book and download it. All right, now, Virgo is the fifth sign. The Escheat sun must have been in Leo as its first point of right ascension. And in the last degree of Virgo, joining. Because this is the signification of these men coming to the Virgo or garden or place where corn or grain is kept or raised. Is or meaning specifically Egypt. Egypt, the place where corn or grain was raised. Now, y'all, I remember back in the day, the Americas was said to be, or corn was said to be aboriginal to America. And then later on, people started saying, well, corn was also indigenous to America. But then later on, I heard Dr. Ivan Van Sertima say that corn is indigenous to Africa, too. Meaning that Kemet, ancient Kemet, is the Americas, at least the central headquarters. And that Africa, the Egypt in Africa that we know now is just a satellite. Not nearly as old as ancient Egypt, okay? So, he continues, the author continues. I lost my spot. And in the last degree of Virgo, joining. So remember, look in the community tab, y'all. Y'all will see Virgo and Leo next to each other. This is the joining or the conjoining that he's talking about, okay? I put a picture there of that for you to see it. And in the last degree of Virgo, joining, because this is the signification of these men coming to the Virgo or coming to the garden or place where corn or grain is kept or raised. So I think he's talking about during the famine when Joseph and his brothers went to Egypt to get food, to get corn and grain. All right. So it looks like he's chronicling, making this that time, or pairing up that time, or saying that this happened at that time. The Sphinx was built at that time. I think that's where he's going with this. It continues. Egypt, which is the mother of a child or colony of the governors of the earth, Atlantis. Remember, he said that the Atlanteans colonized Egypt, colonized Kemet, but that the Egyptians were not of the same bloodline as the Atlanteans. This is what he's talking about. Okay? So Egypt is the mother of a child. Egypt, which is the mother of a child or colony of the governors of the earth, Atlantis. Egypt, which is the mother of a child or colony of the governors of the earth, Atlantis. Let me think about this, y'all. Egypt, which is the mother of a child or colony of the governors of the earth, Atlantis. Now, by the precession of the equinoxes, so this would be a backward movement, apparent backward movement of the sun through the constellations. Now, by the precession of the equinoxes, our SUN sun and solar system, as well as every fixed star in the universe, go through one sign in 2,160 years. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 6 is 9. So there we are back at 9. Okay? Whose figure, he does the same thing. Whose figures 2 plus 1 plus 6 plus 0 equals 9. The number of Isis, the number of Virgo, the number of Isis, the number of the moon, or nature. Okay? Or nature. That's feminine energy. The whole of Leo is 2,160 years. The whole of Cancer. He's talking about the zodiacal ages. All right? So one zodiacal age is 2,160 years long. All right? And it's not going clockwise, it's going counterclockwise, backwards through the zodiac. All right? So let's do it again. Leo, let me give you context on this. You go outside at 5:30, 5:30, 5:45 in the morning. 5:35, 45 a.m. in the morning. Look to the east. Now you've got to be at the equator or within the tropics, within 23.5 degrees north and 23.5 degrees south. You go outside on the very first day of spring, March 22nd. that morning, 5:30, 5:45 at sunrise. Look out over the horizon. Look out over or toward the zone of Horus. And you'll see a constellation rising up. Or at the horizon. Let me say at the horizon, because now you're in the constellation. There's no transition. You're in the constellation, okay? So you're in Leo. You'll see the constellation, the stars that make up the constellation Leo, you'll see it right there on the horizon. And it'll stay there for 2,160 years, okay? But toward the end of that 2,160 years, of course, the constellations are moving. So during the transition, you'll see another constellation rising up above the horizon. And this would be, in scripture, identified as that war in heaven. That war in heaven. War broke out. One constellation, one zodiacal age is coming in and the other is going out. So there is, as it were, a battle, a war. As if the constellation doesn't want to leave, so they battle it out. But nature wins, right? Nature wins. So the whole constellation Leo is 2,160 years long. The whole constellation of Cancer is 2,160 years long. The whole constellation of Gemini is 2,160 years long. The whole constellation of Taurus is 2,160 years long. And this book was published in 1892. So, and in the present date of Aries, there are already, according to this author, 1,892 years into Aries. Add these years up, that's 10,532 years. So, it appears to be that the Sphinx was built 10,532 years ago. That's from 1892, when the book was published. So 1892, 1992, that's 100 years later. So that would be 1,992 years. And then we're in, what is this, 24? 24 years plus 8, so 92 to 2000, that's 32. So that still doesn't take you into Aquarius. But anyway, the only way to know what the zodiacal age is to go to the equator or within the coffee belt. On the first day of spring, be there, March 22nd. Well, usually it's going to be a few days before there's a range, but let's just say March 22nd. Go down to the coffee belt, 23.5 degrees north, 0 degrees, 23.5 degrees south. Tropic of Capricorn, the equator, Tropic of Cancer in the north, the equator, and then the Tropic of Capricorn in the south. Go down there. Don't go to the equator. On the first day of spring, that morning, 5:30, 5:45 a.m., just before sunrise, and look toward the east, right over the horizon. Whatever zodiac sign you see, that's the zodiacal age that we are in. You don't have to do any fancy calculations. Just go down there and see for yourself. What better evidence is there than for you to go see for yourself, and then you know? But you have to be literate, right? You have to be able to read. You got to be able to read the stars, right? But the interesting thing, we still have to deal with Aries. Where did Aries come from? And does that affect the calculation of the zodiacal ages? Does it increase, decrease, or does it stay the same? Let's continue. So that total of the, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4 complete zodiacal ages that pass by. Leo, Cancer, Gemini, and Taurus. And then the present in 1892 was Aries. And they were 1,892 years, according to this author, into Aries. That gave a total of 10,532 years since the Sphinx was built, as calculated in 1892. So if you work with this author's numbers as far as Aries is concerned, you need to calculate from 18, you need to add, well, you can subtract 2024 minus 1892, and that result you just add to this number 10,532 years, okay? So now it reads, then this Sphinx, which commemorates this event. What event? What event? Well, again, here's the event. The Sphinx has the entire body of the lion and the head of a virgin. Virgo is the fifth sign. And the Escheat sun must then have been in Leo as his first point of right ascension. So springtime was beginning in the zodiac sign Leo, and in the last degree of Virgo. So Virgo was the end. No, Virgo was the beginning. Spring began in Virgo. I said that wrong. Spring began in Virgo, and the last sign of the zodiac would have been Leo. Okay, so Virgo is the face, the woman, the first zodiac sign, and then you go around and it ends in Leo. Did I get that right, yo? Anyway, let's continue. So this is the event he's talking about. Then this Sphinx, which commences this event, was built at 10,532 years ago and proves the truth of the priest's story to Solon. I disagree totally. And also that it was to perpetuate their knowledge to posterity. Why would the Hermetic scholars, academics, scientists and engineers why would they need to pass that knowledge to Solon in order to preserve it for their posterity? This is nonsense. For all parts of the known world have contributed to this virgin-born capital G-O-D, or the cross prime meridian. In other words, the solar zodiac projection, and the ecliptic, the serpent of the sun, right? So the sun follows the path of the ecliptic. So the ecliptic is referred to as the serpent of the sun. And the great dragon, or serpent of the moon, or moon's node, quote unquote, having eyes you see not, ears you hear not, neither will ye understand. I think that's coming from Mark 4, where the apostles asked JC why he always speaks to the people in parables. So the author just presented this information. And then he's asking you if you understand it. That's all. If you don't understand it, you're still under the religious spell. Or maybe you need to review it more and more and more. I'm not talking about the mechanics of it. I'm not talking about if you understand the mechanics of it. That's not what I'm saying. If you understand that this is not about devils and demons. So if you're still thinking religiously, gods, devils, and demons, then you got eyes to see, but you can't perceive. Right? Your eyes and ears are still uncoupled from your mind. You're not dealing with reality well. In other words, you're clinically crazy. You're seeing things and hearing things that are not there. For all parts of the known world have contributed to this virgin-born capital G-O-D, or, so here we are, y'all. This is the cross, the solstitial line, the equinoctial line, okay? This has to do with the solar projection of the zodiac. And the great dragon, the ecliptic, right? The ecliptic. Okay? The path of the sun. That's the great dragon. But that's not to be confused with the serpent or the dragon in the circumpolar region. Dragon. Which initially, y'all, was an alligator. But anyway, let's keep it going. Which makes me wonder, why would they change it from an alligator to a snake or to a dragon? What was the purpose for that? All right, so the great dragon, which is the ecliptic, the serpent of the moon, or the moon's node, and then quote unquote having eyes ye see not, ears ye hear not, neither will you understand. He's talking to you Christians and Hebrew Israelites who are still still hearing and seeing things that are not there. Y'all know there was this one scholar at Zion Law School. I think he was offended. I don't know, because he never verbalized it, but I could tell. I saw indications of it, but he never said it. But I used to always talk. This is before I started talking about astrotheology as openly as I do now. That the New Testament is full of mind sciences, right? I mean, it's a lot of stuff going on in the New Testament. I need to talk about the mind scientists, and I think this one scholar thought that, I don't know what. Let me not start trying to get into somebody's head, but I think he didn't appreciate me showing the mind sciences in the New Testament. And he was looking at it as though I made it up myself. Like I'm taking credit for figuring all of this stuff out. No. This stuff is known. Widely known. Widely known. Some stuff I figured out, some stuff I read, some things I knew because of my knowledge, right? I'm a very well-read person. Let me not say natural person, let me correct that. Natural man, I'm very well-read. And so I can see it. When I come across it, I see it. And then when you use literary tools and all of these things, you can, what's hidden from you in English, you can see underneath it. And it's just clear as day. But religious people can find any reason to get mad at you. So let me say this, y'all, for the record. I didn't make any of this stuff up. Whatever I know is because I read it. Either, how can I say this? I read it in the book, and then I share it. I'm not making anything up. I read it in the book. Do I use reference books and stuff like that? Very rarely. Very, very rarely. Because I don't want to be influenced. But when you go underneath the English into the Ibaryath, and you learn how to work out these grammar rules, you learn how to do word studies, what they call them Hebrew word studies. When you learn how to do Ibaryath word studies, you learn how to deal with the grammar, eliminate the BS, all the crap. Well, things just jump off the page at you. And then once you see something, then you can start researching it. And you're not influenced by somebody else or by the dark priesthood. Anyway, let's keep it going, y'all. The Assyrian lion, the Babylonian bull, the Egyptian calf or heifer, the brazen serpent of Moses. So Scorpio was an eagle. And then it became a snake, y'all, or I lost my thought. The brazen serpent of Moses, the dragon of China, the serpent mounds of Ohio, and the lamb of capital G-O-D, the Lamb of God, that's Aries, y'all. The Tau cross, so remember, this is the Tau cross. So yeah, it would have had the serpent of Moses would have been Scorpio. Why? Well, let's go over the cherubim again. The Assyrian lion, Leo. The Babylonian bull, Taurus. The Egyptian calf. So that's also Taurus. Or heifer, the brazen serpent of Moses. Scorpio, the eagle. What are the three icons for Scorpio, y'all? Well, it's the scorpion, it's the eagle. There's one more. I don't remember. Maybe I ought to stop the video. So y'all, I think this might be the last. Well, I was going to say this is the last paragraph, but this paragraph is almost 2 pages. We'll go through it. If I need to come back and add on or correct something, I will. Let's see what we can do. So let's pick up the dragon of China, the serpent mounds of Ohio, the Lamb of God, the Tau cross. So this is the Tau in the ancient Ibaryath, the ancient Phoenician or the Canaanite Phoenician. This is the Tau cross in Greek, the Greek alphabet, okay? So the Tau cross of Egypt and the modern Christian cross. The cross of modern Christianity. And the cross, y'all like this? Now imagine a circle around this cross. Okay? That's the orb of the papal religion. So y'all see the Pope, and he has that staff with the circle and the cross inside. That's the orb of the papal religion, are one and the same meaning. So it's the cherubim. Okay? It's the 4 corners, the cherubim. the bull, the lion, Scorpio, and then the head of a man. All right? And then the sun sun, the blazing sun, surrounded by the cherubim. Y'all see it? So that again, so we're dealing with the same four beasts. Okay, now let's continue. The sun sun of Freemasonry. Look at this, y'all. Look at this. So this is the icon for the sun. Y'all see it? It's a circle with a dot in the middle. Now y'all think about Star Wars. Think about Star Wars. Okay, think about Star Wars. And it says the sun of Freemasonry, or look at this. Doesn't that look like one of the fighter ships in Star Wars right here? Y'all remember Star Wars? At least the first Star Wars? That looks like one of the fighter ships, right? So the sun of Freemasonry, or we have the symbol for Freemasonry, and then we have the triangle within the circle. For the codices of Mercury have all the same great teaching. So each of those icons mean the same thing. They teach the same information. Hidden only to the uninitiated and profane. So in other words, if you're not in the inner circle, if you're not one of the 12, of course you're uninitiated, you're not a Freemason. And you are profane because you're ignorant. Ignorant of what? Ignorant of the natural sciences that we're discussing right now. So it's hidden only to you. Why? Because you got eyes to see, but you can't perceive, and ears to hear, but you can't hear, but you can't understand. The mystery of the trine, or triune, that's the Trinity. The mystery of the trine, or triune worship, is the sun, which is the father, the moon, which is the mother, and the star, which is the child. Right? Or even the papal orb, which is the earth as the child, emanated from astrology and nothing else. So in other words, Christianity originated from astrology. So these are the 3 degrees. Remember, the sun, the moon, and the stars. These are the 3 legitimate and only degrees of Freemasonry. The sun, the moon, and the stars. Here. All the other 30 degrees were inserted to support worship of the Virgin Mary. In other words, to promote Christianity. So y'all see, we have some work to do. We got some work to do. We got to correct the Zodiac. Or at least correct our understanding of it. Shift away from the major focus being the ecliptical zodiac projection. Return back to our ancient ancestors' focus, which was a circumpolar zodiacal projection. Okay, y'all? And we can work out the details as we go. What about Aries? What about Aries? How do we deal with that? How does the zodiac change? Or is that even true? That Aries at what time was not a part of the zodiac? What do we do about Libra? Do we reconnect Virgo and Scorpio so that it again is Virgo Scorpio? What caused the change? Well, we know there was a great earthquake. Is that great earthquake? Let me stop. These are things that I usually talk about in our class, our Saturday class at 10 a.m. Y'all come to class if y'all want to get this information, okay? If you want it, if you want to get it from me, because you can work this stuff out using your own analytical and critical thinking mind. Okay? The mystery of the triune or trine worship is, or meaning, the sun, who is the father, the moon, who is the mother, and the child. So now we see the Father, the Holy Ghost, and the Son. Right? We see the great I am being the Son. Well, let me not go. Let's scratch that. Let's continue. All right? So all of these emanated, these Trinity-based religions, these solar religions emanated from or have their origin in astrology. In other words, astrology is the template of all these religions. The only things that are different are the names, the locations, and some of the details. But they all have their origin in astrology, specifically the solar or ecliptical projection of the zodiac, and nothing else. Whether we navigate the ocean by observations of the Escheat sun, or moon, or a planet, the beginning is always the right ascension of meridian. The beginning is always right ascension of meridian. The prime meridian, the latitude, horizontal, and the longitude, longitude, takes you right back to the cross. The latitude and longitude of a place to start from, or what's here? The sun. Let me show y'all. See y'all, so we are heavy into Moorish culture right now. We are heavy into Moorish culture right now. Okay? So what is it? I mean, I'm in no position to tell anyone what to do or even recommend what someone should do. But can't we see that Moors should start to learn and develop navigational skill sets and stop debating and arguing and talking about who's an agent and who's not an agent, accusing one another? Wouldn't that mental energy and effort be better spent on learning how to navigate and then teaching everyone else what you learned? The recovery of our heritage. I mean, I'm not in a position to tell anyone what to do, but it's quite obvious. It's quite obvious. Right? If you're not talking to this man or woman, our ancestors were master astrologers, master navigators, then that means we need to be the same. Which means taking the time, energy, and effort and investment to learn and develop, to use and teach those skills. Who's going to have time to accuse somebody else of being an agent or to attack someone else just because they have a viewpoint different than yours? Y'all see why a lot of people don't have respect for us? Because a lot of us act like children, or just outright destructive. Devils. The prime meridian, the latitude and the longitude of a place to start from, or, okay, y'all, cross. The center of the prime or original cross, the blazing sun in between the cherubs that we just looked at. The sun's declination, according to whether it is north or south of the equator, gives the polar distance and the application of the SUN sun's altitude or star's altitude. When on the meridian, we'll deduce the latitude and either AM or PM of the day. The hour angle found at that time of observation, that time of observing the SUN suns or moons or planets' altitude will, if reduced to degrees and miles of a degree, or let's say in meters, give the longitude. And the intersection of the latitude and the longitude found are a cross. Y'all see this, y'all? This is nature. Nature. Okay? My mother used to say, you don't even much know who you is. But we are nature, and we should collectively learn how to navigate it, right? So I'm gonna put it out there. Those of y'all who can, who are willing, start learning navigation. Don't learn how to do it using an application. Learn how to do it by hand, from scratch, so that you're not dependent on an application. You can do it by hand. Our ancient foremothers and forefathers did it by hand. That means you at one time did it by hand. So if you did it then, you can definitely do it now. Don't rely on a application. Don't rely on anything computer generated. For obvious reasons, right? Okay, the hour angle found at the time of observing the SUN suns or moons or planets' altitude will, if reduced to degrees and miles or meters of a degree, give the longitude. And the intersection of the latitude and longitude found are a cross, which you have found from the right ascension meridian or prime right ascension or meridian. The grand secret of royal arc masonry. And the worship of the ram Isis, or the point of Aries, the Lamb of God. The great point where Jos is J-O-S, which is the sun, S-U-N, and Hua, H-U-A, Hua is the moon, meet to create man after their image. Now y'all should remember that the sun and the moon have to be in the east gate, or we're in the east gate. This is what it's referencing. Let me, hold on. Let me see if I can find that for y'all real quick. I think that's in chapter 11. Yeah, the serpent on page 127. The serpent is a constellation Scorpio, so I remembered it correctly. Which is also it's also a symbol of the original fall sign. See, here's a curious thing. Let me regress. On page 127, the author talks about Libra not being in the original 10 constellation Zodiac sign, or Zodiac projection. But that when Virgo and Scorpio were separated due to the original fall of man, now we went to 10 signs. It doesn't mention anything about Aries. But anyway, if y'all want to do more research on that, that's on page 127. So let me go back to try to find, yeah, here it is. Page 129. So the birth of Eve, which is the moon, and then Adam and Eve must be in the same sign in the due east to find the serpent. And remember, Virgo's helpmeet is Adam and Eve conjoined. This page 129. Give me 1 second. One second, y'all. So if I were y'all, I would start on page 127, 128, read 127, 128, 129. Give me 1 second. And then 130. Here we go. The birth of Eve is a beautiful symbol of astrological teaching, for she, Eve, is the moon, and Adam is the sun, must be in the same sign in the due east or Garden of Eden to find the serpent, which you will find in the mysteries of Isis later on. In this interest to Eden, they must be joined as one flesh. Remember, joined, conjoined. Okay, or become as one body. And yet, in the very entrance of Eden, the head of the serpent appears. Okay, so that would be the head of the serpent. That would be Scorpio, if I'm understanding this correctly. To resume. Well, then it goes into a different topic. But let's go back to where we were. Page 139. Page 139. So he continues, okay, so we're going to start at the RAM, or prime right ascension or meridian, the grand secret of royal arch masonry. Boy, he's just spilling all the beans, isn't he? And the worship of the ram, Isis, or the point Aries. Now remember, Aries, according to the author, was not in the original Zodiac. It was inserted in. So according to the author, at this point, it says here the Sphinx the Sphinx has the entire body of the lion and the head of the Virgin. Virgo is the fifth sign, and the Escheat and sun must have been in Leo as its first point of right ascension, and the last degree of Virgo joining. Okay, yo? I'm not going to feel comfortable until I understand what's going on with Aries. What's the story with Aries? If anybody knows, y'all let me know, okay? So he continues. And the worship of Ram, worship. Now, if you're talking about our ancestors, there was no worship involved. It was the observation, the study of Ram Isis. Now, if you're talking about the hybrids, well, then I can see the worship. Okay? I can see the worship of Ram Isis. So let's make the distinction. Okay, so Ram Isis or point of Aries. Now, Isis is Virgo, y'all. So he's saying, actually what he's saying, he has capital R, lowercase a, lowercase m. So he's talking about, I'm going to have to guess, here he's talking about right ascension meridian. But this is the way it's usually written, capital R, capital A, capital M. So this confused me. Capital R, lowercase a, lowercase m. So I think he meant by Ram, I don't know if he's talking about Aries or right ascension meridian. Maybe he's talking about right ascension meridian Isis, because that's consistent with what we just read on page 138. But anyway, let's keep it going. Maybe he's going to clarify it. Or worship of right ascension meridian, or worship of Ram Isis, or right ascension meridian Isis, or the point Aries, the Lamb of God. So he's talking about Aries, or is he talking about both? In the zodiacal age of Aries. If he's doing that, I don't understand why he's bouncing around. Or is he talking about the worship of Aries in this zodiacal age? Maybe that's what he's talking about. Well, in that zodiacal age. All right? And the worship of the Ram Isis, or the point Aries, that's the beginning of spring. Okay? Whatever constellation that might be in, you know, during that zodiacal age. The Lamb of God. The great point where Jos, the sun, or Hua, the moon, meet to create man after their image. So this is Genesis chapter 1, 26 and 27. Having to do with the Han Uman, right? Elohim, Yaqub, or wherein you must find the great mystery of the two serpents of Egypt. Mariners can never dispute astrology, for they use it daily. Surveyors use it daily. Astronomers use it hourly. No living beings move a step unless forming a new cross. And no two living beings can be born on the same cross, right? That's your nativity chart, referencing that, rather. All time is reckoned from the SUN sun's movement. All time is reckoned from the SUN sun's movement along the ecliptic, in one zodiac and out the other. In one zodiacal age, and then on to the next zodiacal age. All time is reckoned from the SUN sun's movement and the first point of Aries. The R, the capital R, the capital A, the capital M, from which the hour angle is deducted. And from point to point, from which the cross, in which we are to the cross or latitude and longitude of any place one desires to go. A line from one cross to the other cross, the angle or angel of the Lord, i.e. the angel of a circle, the angle of a circle, circle 7, right? We see the solstitial line, the equinoctial line, and then the circle, and then the 4 gates, right? The 4 gates. The angle of a circle, 360 degrees, will give the course and a scale of miles divided into tens, hundreds, or thousands will give the distance between two places. These truths the Atlanteans, a maritime nation, strove to perpetuate, and in such ways as to last forever, free from the baneful changes of earthquakes, and astrologically calculated to the last 4,000 of years. Oh, astrologically calculated to last for thousands of years. Having been a navigator 27 years, so the author is saying that he has been a navigator for the last 27 years. The author says, I think I can speak with authority and not as one of the scribes. Having been for many years, listen y'all, here's the author telling us who he is. Having been for many years a student in ancient astrology among the Arabians. Well, wait a minute. He's a hybrid. Allegedly a Greek or a Roman, right? Greeks and Romans. Why does he need to get this information from the Arabians? Having been for many years a student in ancient astrology amongst the Arabians. So he studied astrology with the Arabians, with the Arabs, with the Carib Indians, the Caribbean Indians. And he has in parentheses, Old Atlanteans. So now he's saying that the Caribbean Indians are Old Atlanteans. Well, before, he said that the people in the Americas were colonized by the Atlanteans, but they did not have the Atlanteans' blood. Y'all remember that? Now he's saying Carib Indians, quote, in parentheses, Old Atlanteans. Or what? Old Atlanteans, old Maxims, Olmecs. Listen, y'all, listen. And Negro fetish men, he studied with Negro fetish men too, and Bush Negroes, he studied with Bush Negroes of South America. And so all of these autochthonous Moors taught the author astrology. And he continues about his own biography, his own credentials. And he is a member of the Masonic body of the Blue Lodge since 1857. Wow. Since 1857, this book was published in 1892. That's a long time. That's like 35 years or so. He was a member of the Masonic body of the Blue Lodge since 1857. Then remade under the ancient rites in a Jewish lodge in 1869. And exalted listen to this title, and exalted to the most royal order of Rosicrucian Masonry of the ancient rites. So Rosicrucian, the Rosy Cross, Rosicrucianist. So now he's a Freemason and a Rosicrucianist. I have striven, according to the author, I have striven from the ashes to renew the ancient fires and found the meaning of the rose, quote unquote, sub rosa. See the rosy fire, Rosicrucians? Truly, under the rose lay the secret. And the secret, y'all, according to this author, is the cross. As it says in Acts, in the book of Acts, Acts chapter 17, verse 23, quote unquote, I found an altar to the unknown God. What is this altar to the unknown God? Well, he tells us. Ram Isis, or the point of Aries, the Lamb of God, right, where the sun and the moon meet to create man after their own image, wherein you must find the great mystery of the two serpents of Egypt, and which astrologers and mariners use on the regular to navigate and keep time. So Acts chapter 17, verse 23, quote unquote, I found an altar to the unknown God, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship, him I declare to you. He's teaching you astrology. All right? So we finished the chapter, y'all. So it looks like he's talking about the zodiacal age of Aries, when springtime began in Aries. Because it looks like he's, unless there's something I don't know, it looks like he's using these two words equivalently. I'm on page 139. All time is reckoned from the sun's movement. The first point of Aries, the right ascension meridian. So it seems like that should change, right? From each zodiacal age. So the zodiacal age begins in Leo, right ascension meridian would begin in Leo because spring begins in Leo. But nonetheless, he's saying that time begins, or time is reckoned rather. Time is measured from the sun's movement and the first point of Aries, the right ascension meridian. So that would change per zodiac sign. But I'm still stuck, y'all, on Aries not being in the original zodiac. So why is there an emphasis on Aries? There has to be a reason. So it has to be, in my opinion, at this point, not knowing anymore, it has to do with something to do with the solar religions. The worship of Mary, the worship of Virgo, all right, and her son. And the 30 additional degrees that were added to it. But anyway, I got some figuring to do. All right, y'all, so we are done. We're gonna pick this back up on chapter 13, which is page 141. And the title is Description of the Planets, What They Rule Over, and Whom. So in other words, we've gone through all of the mechanics, and now we're going to get into another aspect of astrology, all right? And I think I will be able to go into some of the other books that you see in the title, since we've gotten through all of the mechanics. So you'll see 3 books in the title of this class, all right? And we'll be able to go through those. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely, we'll be able to do that, yeah. Chapter 15 of the signs and meanings or interpretations of the 12 books. Yeah. Chapter 14, 12 houses or mansions describe the signification, nature, quality, and description of the 12 houses, definitely. So yeah, we'll be able to bring in the other books, y'all. The supplemental books for this class. What does it say? Hold on. Okay. So hold on. All right, so we're going to begin with chapter 13, page 141. Description of the planets, what they rule over, and whom. Islam to all the Moors. Shalom. I see y'all in the next class.